I'm an aspiring art groupie, have been for many years, and to be dumped in a playpen with some of these amazing minds and artists is a real pleasure for me. There is a piece of art with each song, and I think there's some extraordinary artists that we're going to work with.
My name's David Spriggs. I'm an artist now based on Vancouver Island in Canada. I'm originally from England and I moved to Canada when I was 14. I'm largely making contemporary artwork, installation-based artwork, sculptural, as well as some painting, drawing. But my work's generally known for the large-scale works which involve layering transparencies through space. I think of transparency as a medium, like a material. You have the light and space artists, light is their medium. I think of transparency as my medium, so I'd use various materials from glass to acrylic to transparent film for various works. I'm mostly known for the layered work I've done, which takes two-dimensionals displayed three-dimensionally. Painting or etching or drawing on individual transparent sheets, and you look through the sheets to create like a form in space. My work revolves mostly around ideas of immaterial, concepts of power. I work on large-scale installations as well as smaller pieces. Some of my large-scale installations, go from floor to ceiling, from wall to wall of a space, and they're really meant to engage the viewer on a kind of a physical as well as a perceptual level. It's still, in a sense, sculpture, but it takes the techniques of painting, of printmaking, of drawing. Any two-dimensional media I can translate into this kind of three-dimensional space. And I found that the idea of the immaterial is quite an interesting direction to take the work, as opposed to, the traditional marble statuary or something that really has a definite edge to it. I like this idea of, a form kind of bleeding into the space. It's kind of, my style has become a bit this kind of blurry-edged style where, you have this kind of form that's quite there, but not quite. So here we are at the back of my home. I've just been here about 6 months now. We just moved from Vancouver with my family, and I've built my studio here. It's slowly coming together. We're fortunate to have this access to nature as well as to the city. For me, I've always needed to find peace when I'm working. I think of it as like a sort of focus. You actually can you need to clear your head to think of good ideas if you're, bombarded by media constantly and traffic. It doesn't leave space for thought.
David Spriggs, who was actually born in Manchester but now lives in Vancouver, does this amazing stuff, and it uses many layers of transparencies, so you get this sort of strange creations that almost feel like, some are influenced by nature, but they have a life of their own. And because there's so many layers, there's an intensity to them. So I've had a couple of great talks with him, and he said part of what he does is he imagines what art might look like a few years in the future, and then try and create accordingly. And I think he's done that very successfully in this particular piece.
For me, this piece is also kind of almost eye-like. We have almost kind of a sense of the empty space, this kind of void being sort of like the pupil of the eye. It's kind of, so I think of this body of work in my Vision series too as kind of being about perception. Just kind of how perception functions, how your mind creates perception. Here we have many layers that we're seeing together all at once. So, this form only exists in our minds because really all it is individual images, and As we go to the side, we can see this kind of form breaking down, becoming nothing other than these single two-dimensional kind of slides. One of the reasons I like to have this kind of sense of implied motion is because the work is very static. It's quite in contrast to cinema or many media that we see now, which is all about movement, about the kind of bombarding of the senses. And here we have something that's very still. And I think it's that stillness that makes us really like connect to it more. It becomes more sculptural. Peter Gabriel's new song Panopticom is an interesting song. This idea of an all-seeing eye is very much related to my work. I proposed this work to kind of be the work that coincides with his song, because I felt that it communicated a lot of the feelings that the song gave. The idea of a panopticon, the prison system, it's an uneasy idea. It has this kind of sense of vision being used against someone, or vision as a form of power. This piece I mentioned is very similar to an eye. I think of it as sort of like a panoptic eye. But there's the violence to the color. This kind of, it has a physical. We have a physical reaction to the color, and emotional reaction, which I know that we often refer to red as like it could be about passion as well, but many things in the world are red because they're a symbol of warning. The panopticon, this idea of an all-seeing perspective, an omniscient perspective, I like in terms of my work too. It's this idea of being able to see at all times every part of the work. This transparency of the material that kind of allows that kind of all-seeing perspective. And as we walk around it, we really can experience the whole artwork, the in and outs of it. So the image is actually spray painted carefully in a specific manner. I use the golden ratio spiral to create the kind of the guidelines for the form, and a half sphere too, to have that relationship to like a form or something like the eye. It's something that needs to be experienced as you're walking around it, to give it that three-dimensional quality.
I would advise you to go and check out David Spriggs, because I think they're amazing images.